Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kallas Remarks with your host, Joe Stasza. My man, Steve Kallas, Johnnie Kallas, along with us today to recap Week 11. What a weekend it was. Boys, how you doing today?
Good to see both of you guys.
You too, as
Same
well.
here. Looking forward to this as always.
Always, fellas. So, front runners in the NFC, we're talking Rams, we're talking Eagles, Eagles and Lions, the marquee game Sunday night. As an Eagle fan, and we were sitting around watching with the boys, it's like if we win the Super Bowl, it's going to be the most boring path to the Super Bowl like ever because it's not fun to watch Eagles. It's really not. Their defense was spectacular, it seemed, unless Detroit just can't play in cold weather. And but they did stifle the Packers the week before. So 16 points they've given up to both those teams in an 8-day span. They won the game despite some things. We'll get into that maybe a little bit, but all they do is win, and that's what they do. And they found ways to win. Wasn't pretty. It was actually pretty ugly. Two tush pushes that didn't work. Sirianni calls a timeout to give Dan Campbell time to think about what he should have done was kick a field goal, and he does, and he kicks the field goal to make it close. And then they get this worst pass interference call I've ever seen to end the game. It was just a weird ending. And I'm an Eagle fan, but that was an awful call on AJ Brown. It wasn't on AJ Brown, it was on the defender who was covering him. Johnny, your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I appreciate you as an Eagle fan admitting to that, Joe. I don't think it would have made much of a difference with how just staunch the Eagles defense has played. Man, I thought that they would take a step back, losing a lot of their front four coming off that Super Bowl win, but they look as good as they did in February
They
last year. I
do.
mean,
Yeah, they're coming
uh,
along.
yeah, I mean, to hold Goff, what was he, 14 of 37, 9.5 QBR, which is a real metric to look at. Jameer Gibbs, 12 carries, 39 yards, under 75 yards rushing, just an overall dominant defensive performance. I think Jared Goff right now is still throwing the ball into the Eagles' defensive line. What was it? Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, five or six pass
Five
deflections.
knockdowns.
I mean, no, just an overall dominating performance. What I will say though, I mean, the fact that it was a one score game at the end, just Sirianni, look, he has to be one of the two or three, maybe the best coach in football based on what the Eagles have done. But tush push with your backup center up 10 from your own side of the field when I'm all for being aggressive, but the only way they could get into that game is if they didn't give that up. And then yeah, I don't think it would have made a difference, as you said, but just a really horrible call. I hate it when, I'm a big believer, and feel free to disagree with me, guys. I think the bigger the moment, the more deference refs should give to players. I'm a huge believer in that. And we can go back. Remember Super Bowl 57? I think it was horrible the way that that football game ended. Not to go back and bring up bad memories, Joe, but just let the guys play. It'd be like, yeah, I was thinking about this, so sorry if this is a mini rant. It'd be like if they called, as a Patriots fan, I wish this would have happened, but a holding against on Richard Seymour during the David Tyree helmet catch. I'm glad they didn't make that call for the sake of NFL history. Let the guys play. This was a regular season game, so not a huge deal. But it's a shame to see a football game, especially a really important football game. The Lions, I think, are technically out of the playoffs right now. I don't think that'll stay for long. The Chicago Bears have a lot of friends in Illinois who I think would agree with this. Probably the worst 7-3 team in NFL history, but they're leading the NFC North right now. The only other thing I'll say, this whole AJ Brown drama, I think it really impacted them, and everybody in the world knew that they were going to try and involve AJ Brown, regardless if he had one, two, three guys on him at the beginning of the game. I don't know what his final stat line was. What he seven
Yeah,
receptions?
11 targets. Seven.
Yeah, 11 targets, 49 yards.
Yeah, not.
Look, if you're gonna meet, all I'll say is, it's one thing to make a fuss. If you're gonna then publicize an owner with the meeting at team practice, the Lions are gonna know they're gonna go to him like five times in the first 10 plays or whatever they did.
Right.
No, it really hurts them. So they have a lot of things to figure out offensively. But if their defense plays at that level, I'll tell you what, it's not gonna matter a whole lot. They're the team to beat. Them and the Rams. It's gonna be a good showdown, I think, in January in the NFC.
I
Well,
agree with that.
I have to say, and Johnny's heard this forever, as have you, Joe. Let the players decide the game type thing, and if anything, as they said on TV, it could have been an offensive pass interference as
Yeah.
opposed to no. But I just want to focus quickly on two things in this game. The first is the tush push, Joe, because what was it, 3 or 4 weeks ago? The refs obviously missed an offsides. Um, I think it was by the Eagles, wasn't it? In the game, and everybody was going nuts. And now they have the drone, I guess, right over it every play. And there's no doubt in my mind that the referees have now been told to like call more penalties on that because we've seen more penalties in the last 3 weeks than we did in the whole season, if not any year previously. And you're talking inches, the whole neutral zone infraction thing that they had, was that really a touch? I think the touch push is going, Joe, not because necessarily it's unfair, but because the refs can't really ref it. Even now, even when they're looking on the sidelines, even when it's a whatever they say, a point of, to watch this year, there's no doubt they're looking for that now on all the tush pushes. And I, I'm not an Eagles fan. I'll be happy to see it go. It's not even like the quarterback sneak. It's like rugby. That's what it's like to me. It's just like a rugby game now. And I think they could go without it. The other thing is we've talked um, I love the Lions coach, love him since he was a tight end on the Giants. But we've talked, probably all three of us over the last 2 years, that this guy will make errors that can hurt his team. And I think the error he made here, when you're in a game that's 3-0, 6-0, 6-6, when you're in a game like that and you go 0 for 1, 0 for 2 on fourth down, 0 for 3, right, 0 for 5. Especially the one down deep in you got to at some point say, I got to take these points. 3 points in this game was like a touchdown to me. And so I think the fact that they went 0 for 5 and he's just saying, yeah, we didn't convert, we didn't do well, and blah, 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 blah. No, no, you got to take over at some point and say, maybe I better get these points. If this game is going to be just pick a number 13-6, obviously it wound up 16-9. But if it's a low scoring game, to me, it seems you got to have the feel of the game to say, yeah, 3 points is big here. We can't just give these up and know we're going to come back. Plus, they made Goff look like, I would argue, the reason the Rams traded him. But he's been great over the years, don't get me wrong. But they just made, 14 for 37, as Johnny said. I'm like, that's
It was
that's
two of his
horrific.
last 18 as well. Two of his
Yeah,
last
that's
18.
horrifically bad. So, all credit to the Eagles. Their defense is what Johnny said. They're really good. Got to be worried now, Joe. Maybe I don't. What's the future on Lane Johnson? Is he really hurt or is he coming back?
He's got a Liz Frank injury, probably out at least a month. At least a month.
Yeah, so that's a problem. Because Hurts is 14 for 28. I mean, that's nothing to write home about either. 135 yards. So you can tell me the defenses are real good, and certainly the Eagles' defense is real good, and the Lions' defense is pretty good also. But these are such small things that have to be analyzed that if you don't have a feel during the game, I don't think Campbell has a field, just let's go. Let's go. Oh, yeah, 4th and 4, let's go. Fourth near the goal line, let's go. And I understand that's the way they play, but once in a while, you got to have a feel for the game you're in. You weren't in one of these, 42-35 games. If you were, yeah, keep going. But 0 for 5 is terrible. So I think the tush push has hurt itself, and this was another game where it got hurt. Plus, the Eagles missed, what, two of them, Joe? I mean,
He missed
it's
two
unheard of.
again.
It's unheard of compared to what the Eagles have done in the past. And I think that, again, the refs are in on it more closely now. They're looking for that offsides one way or the other. They're looking for it, but it's almost like you got to get down on your knees unless you have that overhead thing to analyze the play after the fact. I don't think you're going to challenge a tush push call one way or the other, but I could be wrong. But, all credit to the Eagles. They probably are the best team right now. I think they have the best defense right now. Maybe the Broncos can go with them. Johnny and I might defend that because we kind of like the Broncos. And, it makes for interesting fun down the stretch. This team is going to win now. There's just not. There's 6 or 8. I don't want to say questionable teams, but who's the best team? There's 6 or 8 right now. You could go and put them in some kind of order and have an argument about it. But I think right now the Eagles are the best. But they are going they are going to need Lane Johnson back, and I guess you're saying he won't be back now till the end of mid-December or the end
Yeah.
of
And they're
December.
not, they're not, they're 4-9 with him, without him in the lineup under Jalen Hurts, which
Yeah, well,
makes
he's a Hall of Famer. He's the one lineman you look at today right away and what he's done the last 5, 6 years. I mean, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but they need him and they need him soon. Maybe they're going to baby him till the playoffs, which is probably going to be the right move. because the Eagles want everybody's trying for that bye now because there's only one of them in each league, obviously. So obviously the Eagles want to win these games. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, they're battling for the bye right now, at least. We'll stay in the NFC here with the Rams, who they've beaten. So the Rams have to have a better record than them when all is said and done. Rams sacked Darnold 9 times last year in the wild card game. Didn't get to him once this past weekend, but they did enough to force him into 4 interceptions. And still a pretty close game. And the Rams did come out on top on the day, 21-19. The Rams go to 8-2. And Matthew Stafford again, no interceptions, 2 touchdowns. Kieran Williams, 12 carries, 91 yards. They did what they needed to do. Of course, Nakua, 75 yards on 7 catches. Johnny, the Rams look like maybe the best team because they can throw their offense. They look like they have some offense, where the Eagles sometimes look like they have no idea what they're doing. What are your thoughts on how the Rams played, their defense, what they did to Sam Darnold, where Seattle ranks, where the Rams rank in the NFC?
So I think in a weird way, on Sunday, both of us, if I can outline what I think your guys' perspective was on the whole Sam Darnold thing, I think both of us were kind of justified in our feelings of Sam Darnold leaving the Vikings. I think you guys are in a lot of ways, I know Joe, you've been on this, that was a terrible decision for Minnesota to let Darnold go, and JJ McCarthy kind of showed why. Again, on Sunday, he's clearly just not ready to be a really good starting quarterback. We'll see what the years bring. However, what my concern about Darnold was last year, and it was reinforced yesterday, is when you get into really important games against really good defenses, what is this guy going to do? And the last 3 times, week 18 last year, wild card round last year, and now by far and away their biggest game of the season this year, effectively, going to largely determine, not totally, but largely determine who's going to end up winning the division and maybe get that first round bye. He lays an egg. I mean, 4 interceptions, some of them just brutal interceptions. Rams have a very good defense, but it gives me some cause for concern. Darnold, you have to be incredibly impressed how he's resurrected his career, and he's taken the Seahawks from an average team into a really good one, along with having arguably the best receiver in football. But it stands to question, and this is going to follow him. I know there was that defensive player, I forget who on the Seahawks, who told everybody who criticizes Darnold to go F themselves. But this is going to follow him until he wins a big competitive football game. And it looks like he's going to have to go on the road to do it, most likely on wild card weekend again. So I just think it's an interesting kind of conversation. Darnold leaving the Vikings, probably not a good decision for Minnesota, but there's still a lot of questions for Darnold. I think when it comes to the Rams, the only thing I'll say is Matt Stafford did not turn the ball over, so real veteran-like performance, but held to under 150 passing yards. I think they got really conservative because their defense was playing so well. They really did next to nothing in the fourth quarter. Then they tried to throw the ball on 3rd and 10, gave the Seahawks a timeout before punting it away. I'll get to that punt in a second. I think it's one of the greatest punts in NFL history. But overall, I think you have to like what the Rams are doing because they have Matt Stafford, who I think, and I'm biased towards my guy in New England, but I think he's leading in the race for MVP. Devontae Adams is your number 2. Puka Nacua is probably the best overall wide receiver in football, especially when you take into account how effective he is in the run game blocking. And their defense is really good. So I think you have to like the Rams, but I got to give a quick shout out to Ethan Evans, man. You're up to a minute 40 left. The Seahawks, I think, hold on to a timeout. Just one of the greatest punts ever. Holds them inside the 1 yard line when all they need is a field goal to win it. I actually think the Seahawks got a little bit lucky. You guys probably know the rule on this because the guy caught it with 1 second and they were able to call timeout. He wasn't touched. So are you technically you're able to give I don't know if I forget who it was, but to set up the field goal attempt, which obviously failed, but you're able to give yourself up like immediately without being touched. You know what I'm saying? It's kind
That's a
of a
rule.
bizarre.
That's a rule. You are allowed to catch the ball and give yourself up on a play like that and have an untimed down.
And have okay, and well, they have the timeout, so obviously they call the timeout to right, okay. I understand. Okay, that makes sense. But overall, I think look, if you're the Seahawks, the one advantage you have, you turn the ball over 4 times and you had a chance to win the game at the end.
Right.
So you can obviously play with the Rams, but if they meet again in a big time situation, and this actually technically wasn't even a prime time game, um, you got to go with the better quarterback, which in this case, far and away, is Matthew Stafford.
Yeah,
Well, I
he's
think
having a phenomenal year.
this,
Go ahead, Steve.
no, this game for me reminded me of the Jet Sam Darnold because he was seeing ghosts. Remember when they played the Patriots and he actually
Yes,
not that he
yes.
wasn't seeing ghosts against the Patriots, but you should never say it. I mean, to this day, that's what people talk about. So you can go back to the two games Johnny talked about, week 18 in the wild card game last year and this game yesterday. Four picks for them to be even in the game. I don't know. I don't know what the stats are on that, but they're stupid stats. I mean, I don't know how many games have been won with four picks, but they did have a 61-yard field goal attempt at the end to win the game. Had they won the game, that would have been one of the most incredible wins ever. But it wouldn't be because of Sam Darnold. And when again, your numbers look good, 29 for 44, 279 yards, and then you get no touchdowns, four picks, and you're like, wow. And that's like a Sam Darnold jet game, is what I would call that. But the problem, you're right, because he left and the Vikings made a gigantic mistake. I mean, they have a very good defense, and I think they're going to be in trouble now because JJ McCarthy is up and down. They threw him into the deep water. I mean, to let Darnold go and then make him the number one, hurt all last season, got hurt again this season. I don't know what the future is for them, but I don't think right now he's the answer. But for Sam Darnold in Seattle, I think they can only go so far. And I don't know if he saw ghosts yesterday. Then nobody asked him. I guess you'd have to be a wise guy. Maybe he saw a ghost, but that was a pretty bad performance. And I think Seattle, with an excellent defense as well, they're a little they're in the conversation. But after that performance and the two last year, forget the Jets. He's a problem if you have him, as Johnny said, if you have him in a big game, better quarterback wins.
Well,
And most of these guys will be better than Sam Darnold for one game in the playoffs.
I do think it's just a fascinating debate, and I know we don't have time to really get into it. But the question I'm moving on from Darnold, does it look like a mistake? Yes. As Steve said, JJ McCarthy is up and down. But Sam Darnold in big games isn't up and down. He's just down.
He's just
So
down.
if you have a ceiling with the guy, what do you do? Now, look, maybe Sam Darnold will prove us wrong, but if you have a ceiling and look, 13 and 4 or 14 and 3, whatever they were in the regular season, but then you lay an egg in two important games in a row, I think it's a really interesting debate that I'll give you, I'll defer. The Vikings have a better record now with Sam Darnold. I don't know how far they'd go in the playoffs with Sam Darnold. I guess that's the open question right now.
I would agree with that. People were raving about Sam Darnold and what he's done with the Seahawks until he throws four interceptions. So you're right. Excuse me, Johnny. When he does get into big games and he's 0 for 3 in his last three big games, that's a trend. Um, Chiefs Broncos. Chiefs were a 3.5 point favorite. I know, Steve, you and I debated over that heading into last week. Hard to say. Chiefs usually win those games, or at least historically, the close ones. I think the Broncos are fugazi. It's hard to say that about a 9-2 team. So maybe I'm coming around a little bit because, the Eagles don't look like, when you watch them, they're like, if I put them next to each other, I wouldn't be like, oh, that green team looks pretty good. No, they don't. But they're 8-2 too. But the Broncos and Chiefs, there were chances in that game. Chiefs had a lead, late in the Broncos again. They find ways to win. They find ways to win the fourth quarter. Their defensive line knocked Patrick Mahomes around a lot, and I thought it was the closest thing to being an almost must-win game for the Chiefs at this stage of the season to not go to 500. They were 0-2, and then they won a couple games, and they were coming out of it. It looked like, but at the end of the day, they're 500. They're a 500 team right now.
Go ahead, Steve. You can take this one first if you want.
Yeah, well, I think yeah, Johnny and I have been on the Broncos for a while now, but it's incredible defense with almost miraculous quarterbacking for what, one quarter and
In
like
the fourth quarter.
but look, you look at Knicks yesterday, he throws that 32-yard pass to Franklin, and that wins the game because of the easy field goal it was for Lutz at the end. It was also a really good field goal kicker as well. But to me, their offense has been kind of up and down. And, Knicks is 24 for 37 for 295 and real good numbers. But this was, it struck me as almost a defensive scrum. And it looks like Spags can't quite turn it on. I mean, everybody's been, whispering, I guess, Joe, about our guy from years ago, Chris Jones, right? And he's just not the same. And it's interesting because he was criticized by a lot of people for that that one play where he was walking along the goal line
Trevor
with,
Lawrence, yeah, the little where he
yeah.
gets in from
And
3 yards out.
and so I just think they're not quite the Chiefs. And Johnny and I have talked for years about what Mahomes has to do to pass Tom Brady, and that looks like that's 7, 8 Super Bowls. That's not happening with these guys. They're starting to show a little bit of the Chiefs before last year's Super Bowl were like, yeah, it's the Chiefs. They're going to win. Yeah, it's the Chiefs. They're going to win. Yeah, it's the Chiefs. They're going to win. And it's no longer that. And it's the old, you don't want to play them in the playoffs. If they somehow sneak into the playoffs, and maybe they can, you definitely don't want to be them. But, I mean, even Kelsey has made a comeback. I thought the first few games of the year, he looked like he was
He had a
done. But
touchdown, give him a late lead. It's
nine
pretty decent
catches,
effort.
91 yards, and a big touchdown at the end. And he's had some big catches the last few weeks, but to me now, the Chiefs are not the Chiefs. And I think this wasn't, I thought the Chiefs were going to win this game, frankly, but the Broncos were able to do in the fourth quarter what they've done to a lot of other teams. I mean, it's weird, but they pull it out every time. And again, they have a great defense at the end that's going to shut down even the Patrick Mahomes. So that puts them, at least in Johnny's mind, in my mind, that puts them right near the top. They're a team you don't want to play, and it'll be shocking now if they don't win their division after winning that game. So I think somehow the Chiefs still make the playoffs because I'm still kind of a believer, but it's not the automatic it once was. The Chiefs have Mahomes, we like the Chiefs type thing. I think that's gone for now. And we'll just have to see if they make the playoffs, frankly. 7 games left. I don't know. And they have a pretty tough schedule, I think. Certainly next week they have a tough game. I know that.
Well,
So,
Chargers keep giving away games you don't think they give away. So they got killed by the. It's one thing to lose, but to get killed by the Jags and to kill your momentum. I mean, Johnny, they're 7-4, nice record, but some of the games they've lost this year, like this past weekend, they lost to the Giants a long time ago. What's with the Chargers? Because they're now 2 games behind Denver, and yeah, they still have time, but I don't know what to make of the Chargers.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a sec. If I could just say real quick on the
Or
Chiefs, I think the really interesting dynamic with the Chiefs, there was a really great article on ESPN. The Chiefs actually, with any sort of statistics, point differential, points, obviously points per game, opponent points per game, these advanced analytics they have, are as good, if not a better team this year than they were last year. The big difference, last year 10-0 in one-score games, this year 0-5 so far in one-score games. So they're just not getting it done in the fourth quarter when usually Patrick Mahomes and their defense elevates their game. And this year they've been going in the other direction. That was a real good case in point what happened on the last 2 drives. Chiefs get the ball back 19-19. 4 minutes to go, chance to go win the game. How many times have we seen Mahomes drive them down, kill clock, kick a field goal to win it? They go three and out. Broncos then do what the Chiefs always do. They convert a 3rd and 15, and then they have Franklin on that 35-yard pass to set up a game-winning field goal. I think also just the field goal itself, don't take for that for granted. Remember what happened last year? Same situation. Chiefs end up blocking
Lock.
Broncos to win one of those close games. In this case, obviously, Will Lutz puts it right through. So I like the Broncos a lot because of their defense and Mahomes. He threw a brutal pick, and talk about having a sense of the game, low scoring game. That three is important. He forces one. And this was after he should have thrown a pick six. They bailed him out. I mean, a brutal, what would have been a pick six. So obviously Denver can do what you need to do against great teams. What the Bucks showed a few years ago, what the Eagles showed last year, get pressure with four, which is why I think their game in January, Bo Nix is a wild card. They don't have J.K. Dobbins now, probably for the rest of the season, who I thought was their best offensive player. So the AFC, man, and I'll get to the Chargers in a second. AFC is wide. I think the NFC, I'd be pretty surprised if it wasn't the Eagles or Rams representing the NFC in the Super Bowl, barring some injuries. AFC. You like the Patriots who they've won a couple good games but haven't played anyone. You like the Colts with Daniel Jones. You like the Broncos whose offense don't show up to the fourth quarter. You like the Bills who are the roller coaster team of the NFL this year. I don't know if we'll get into them. What I'll say about the Chiefs is I think this week is their season. They beat the Colts. I think they go into the playoffs. If they don't, I think a lot of people think, man, will I even say this? That they might miss out on January football altogether. So we'll see about that. Chargers, Joe, this Chargers, same old story. You would think Jim Harbaugh would turn them around, and I guess he has to some degree. They really gotten away from their identity, though, man. They've been throwing the ball a ton. They're a lot more predictable than they have been in years past. talk about another roller coaster team, except as good as Justin Herbert is, he's not Josh Allen. He's not going to single-handedly carry you to winning multiple games. So look, the Chargers are obviously live for the playoffs. They still play Kansas City. That I forget if that's I forget which week that is, but I wouldn't be surprised if that game decides one of the playoff seedings. The Chargers already beat the Chiefs, so whoever wins that game could very well end up representing the AFC as a wild card team. But I don't think you can buy too heavily into the Chargers. They're just way too up and down against a team that's also up and down in the Jaguars, another team I wouldn't buy too heavy into.
I would agree. You mentioned the Bills. Um, Not sure what to make of them, but that's a pretty big win going down into Tampa, although I'm not huge on Tampa, never was. But a good team and at home. And the Bills, they dropped 44 in six of their seven wins this year. They've put up over 30 points. They can score, but then they drop a game to the Dolphins a week before. You know what I mean? And they look bad doing it. And I mean, the Patriots beat them. Patriots are a good team. The Falcons lost. I'm not sure what the Bills are. I know they're two games behind the Patriots. It's going to be hard to catch them now. And the Patriots did win the first game, but what did you think of the Bills' performance? And who are the Buffalo Bills, Steve?
Well, I thought the Bucks defense was better than certainly they played the other day, and Allen had one of those. He threw one of the worst interceptions in the history of football in their possession out at the goal line. But you got worried immediately about the Bucks because they had a good drive that faltered and the first time they had the ball, and then they got this interception on like the 6 yard line and couldn't score and had to settle for a field goal. Which again, I agreed with early in the game. You think it's going to be high scoring, maybe they should go. But I thought it was smart there to take the points just to get a 3-0 lead. But Allen had one, there's three rushing touchdowns and three passing touchdowns. The only guy in the history of football. Josh Allen has done that twice now. The only guy in the history of football is Otto Graham in the 1954 NFL championship. And if you know about Otto Graham, most people don't. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. He had the greatest numbers around that time in the 50s. They were playing in another professional league, and then they came to the NFL and won their first two or three in a row or something. So it's interesting that nobody has done that. But again, you didn't really have many rushing quarterbacks until what, the last 15 years, maybe. Rushing quarterbacks were a freak. Michael Vick was a freak when he started doing this. Everybody goes back to Fran Tarkenton, who was the greatest scrambler ever. Maybe he wasn't a rushing quarterback, but he was one of the. You go watch some Fran Tarkenton films and to see the things that he did. But look, the Bills are up and down. I'll go back to the Chargers just quickly. I lost all respect for the Chargers last year during that playoff game. Herbert couldn't have been worse. Yet at the beginning this year, you're watching them play and you go, oh, maybe, maybe. And then Herbert was 10 for 18 for 81 yards the other day. I mean, what is that? That's like as bad a game as you could have. And so I think the Chargers are, they might make the playoffs, but I don't think I think Herbert is really good, but he lays eggs too. I won't call him Darnold, but he lays eggs too in the playoffs last year. This is another example to get blown out by the Jags, who are good, but not really, really good. And as for the Bills, I think they're a factor to be considered. You don't know, frankly, to me anyway, which Bills team is showing up. I thought the Bucks could win this game outright, and I was wrong. I think the greatest thing about Baker Mayfield, whatever you think of him, with 38 seconds left in the game is over. Baker Mayfield's running out to the field. I don't know if you guys they showed the film right at the end of the game. He's running out for the last 38 seconds. He's going to try and score, and they put in the black backup to take a knee. And the look on his face, Baker's face was like, taking me out. So I love him for that kind of thing in a big, big way. Look, they've been without Godwin forever. And of course there's Bucky Irving who came onto with those two
Mike
guys.
Evans, too. Mike Evans.
Yeah. I mean, that's like incredible. Those are incredible. Evans is a Hall of Famer. Godwin might make a case at some point for a Hall of Famer, and Bucky Irvin is the new guy who can knock over people. So I think the Bucks, who have been able to at least manage it without them, they're 6-4 now. That's not really good, but that's not really bad. They're in the hunt, of course, but I don't know. I think the Bills, it's the old, you don't want to play them. Which Bills team is showing up? And unfortunately for Josh Allen, the history of the Bills is what? They lose to the Chiefs in the playoffs. They're 0-4. So um, the Bills, I think, right now are better than the Chiefs. Uh, but we'll have to see what the Chiefs do, and we'll have to see what the Bills do. But that's a good win against a really good defense, and we'll see what happens. Bills are 7-3, so they're in the hunt. But I think even if they, we went over the Patriots schedule. They have a very easy schedule except for, I think, two games. They have the Ravens, who are, you could say fortunate to win this past Sunday. And
The
who's their other?
Bills. The
Huh?
Bills. They play the Bills
Yeah.
for the second
And they're
time.
playing the Bills. Can they beat the Bills? Well, they already beat the Bills. I mean, the Patriots are high up there. They have a really good defense. This Gonzalez is a shutdown corner. And and I don't know if May's the MVP, but he certainly has to be in the conversation, in the hunt with, as Johnny said, with the Rams, Stafford. So we'll see what happens. But too much of this, all we come in and say they're up and down, they're up and down, they're up and down. Who's that team? And I don't have the answer. You can say the Eagles are the best team, but to me, Joe, they're up and down as well. But they find a way to win. And this is what happens, I think, when you win a Super Bowl. And some of those guys have won two Super Bowls. So I think, how do I win? They're talking about the Giants, who we won't get into that. They blew another lead in the fourth quarter. They fired the coach. That didn't make a difference. Why they didn't fire the GM, I have no idea. But there is a big thing to learning how to win. In baseball, how do you close the game? Who's your closer? In football, it's a little bit different with who's your closer. It's the quarterback to some degree, but it's the team. And then if you have a great defense like Denver, you can rely on them after these guys get the job done. So we'll see what happens. But there's so much up and down this year, inconsistency that I don't remember in past years. There's always been some, but boy, this year it sounds like you can name 7, 8 teams who go under that category.
Very inconsistent. You don't know who's doing what. The Norris division has the Packers, Detroit, and Vikings all bunched with the Bears ahead of them, where last year it was the other three all winning 13, 14,
7-3 Bears, baby.
15
7-3.
games, 7-3. It's unbelievable. Real
Hey,
quick,
Joe,
because we have to wrap, but are the Bears for real?
are the Bears for real? Uh, if I can quote the guys I bowl league with, no. But I'll tell you what, they keep winning. So, I mean, you have to be impressed with what Ben Johnson has done. Caleb Williams
Yeah.
looks like he is a franchise quarterback, which the Bears have. I mean, really never had. So I think you have to be excited. Would I be surprised if they win the division? Yeah, for sure. But look, maybe they'll find their way into the playoffs, and you can maybe they'll get lucky, and there'll be playoff football in Chicago. That'd be a sight we haven't seen for a while. If I can just say one final thing, because I know we have to wrap.
Yeah.
Got to give some credit to the person I think is the best player in football right now, Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett has
Unbelievable.
15 sacks. He's on pace for 25 and a half, which would blow away the record I think Strahan and
Ray
TJ
had like
have
22 and a
tied.
half. Yeah.
And
Well,
he would,
Strahan has, but go
well,
ahead.
right. Well, he would do it if he's on pace to do it in I think less than 16 games, never mind 17 games. I mean, we'll see. Nine of those sacks have come in two games, five against May, four against Lamar, who I know is a lot slower with these injuries. But still, I mean, the Browns, man, they had Joe Thomas, who's one of the greatest offensive linemen of all time, wasted his career. Myles Garrett, one of the greatest defensive linemen you can say now of all time, wasted his career. But you got to give some credit. Just Shador Sanders, not the greatest debut in NFL history, but Myles Garrett is absolutely balling in Cleveland.
And if I could give you one thing, John, on a guy all three of us like, who should be mentioned. Yeah, the 49ers won 41-22, but our guy Jacoby Brissett, who is actually doing commercials. I don't know if you guys have seen this on TV. He's in the backup commercial where they need a backup to come in. It's like for a computer thing or something. And it's Jacoby Brissett. They did one with DeVito from the Giants. I mean, it's just funny, but he goes
Oh,
7 for 57 for 452 yards. It's the highest completion number in the history of the NFL. Of course, they still lose. And I love Jacoby Brissett. If you saw the interview with him after the game, which I did, he said, couldn't care less. All I want to do is win. This guy could start somewhere, I think, on the right. We've talked about him for years, going back to the Patriots when what was it, Brady got the suspension that didn't Brissett play a couple of games, Johnny, and play.
Brissett played the game they lost 16 to nothing, but that's okay.
Oh, I take it back then. But he's been around forever. And I think
He's a
he's a
great
good
backup.
NFL quarterback. He's a good backup to have. Some of these guys, the backup comes in, I mean, it's not Sanders' fault, 4 for 16 and an interception. After the game, he was still kind of cocky, making excuses, which he has. They went to he hasn't taken, this is stupid now when you're the backup. He hasn't taken snaps with the first team all year. Never, none. So that's stupid if you're the backup because then you're an injury, you're a hit away from playing in the games. But that was an ugly debut, I agree. But Jacoby Brissett is in the record books. Who's going to complete more than 47 passes in the game? And of course, as usual, as we've learned over the years, when you do that, you usually lose. A lot of times you throw for 450
Sure.
yards, you lose. So
Or 505. You lose when you throw for 505.
My man.
okay, that's a Tom Brady reference for against the
Yes, it
Eagles for
is.
our viewers
The Super
out there.
Bowl
But that's the best
52.
example of all, Johnny, of course.
Amazing. All right, great stuff, fellas. We're back in a couple days to preview week 11, but enjoyed having you both on again as usual. You can check out Steve's stuff on his weekly or daily Facebook forum page, Steve Speaking of Sports with Steve Kallas. You can also check out this podcast on YouTube and all the other various audio outlets. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Stasza 975 or on Instagram at Joe Stasza 479. Johnny, always like having you on, man. We appreciate your insight and your time, and we'll catch you guys in a few days.
Thanks, you guys. Great to be with you.
You
Great to
too.
be with you guys as always.
I appreciate it, folks. And folks, we'll see you in about 3 days. Have a great week.